Hello viewers, today for the initial checkout we have a Uniden DECT cordless telephone system. This is the model DECT1588-5, the 88 portion denoting the corded base with answering machine and speakerphone, and the -5 denoting 5 original handsets. There unfortunately are only 2 remaining, and that is quite a shame because this was the colored system. So there would have also been a, I think it's a blue. I can't really see the colors too well. I can't tell if this one's blue or purple. I think that's the purple one. There also would have been a blue, a red, and a pink one that came with this system. So there would have been the blue, red, pink, purple, and then one black. But we only have the, I guess this is the purple one, and one black one. I just picked this up recently at a local tag sale, and there was a bit of a debacle with that. We'll get into that later on in the video. I got this for $10. She was asking $15, and she took 10 with no problem. That was the first time in a while I had been to a local tag sale. Unfortunately, in this region, tag sales kind of became extinct around 2020, and they just never really came back, which is a shame because I thoroughly enjoy visiting tag sales, and much of my collection has come from local sales like that. I have quite a few of these telephones, but this is one of those models that I always get every time I see it, as long as the price is reasonable. This is an absolutely fantastic telephone. I have a ton of nostalgia to these telephones, and I think that these telephones hold a major significance in the landline big picture. I think in a lot of ways these telephones were kind of like one last hurrah for the landline telephone. These came out in 2008, and these things dominated the market, at least in this area, for several years. I believe these were sold until 2012, maybe into 2013. 2012 seemed to be the end of a lot of really good electronics equipment. There weren't many good pieces of electronics that came after 2012. But in 2008, when these came out, the landline telephone was still quite popular. A lot of people either don't want to admit for whatever reason, or just don't get it. I don't know. People act like the landline telephone went obsolete 50 years ago, when in reality, it really only fell out of favor substantially about a decade ago. Into the early 2010s, people were still using landline telephones. In the 2000s, although cell phones were commonplace, many cell phones still had a minute-based plan where you only had a certain number of minutes per, I guess it's per month, per pay period, to talk on telephone. And so if you were going to have a lengthy conversation, the landline was still a go-to. And I remember, even into the 2010s, when I was in high school in the early 2010s, I had a number of friends that I used to talk on the telephone with. And, they had, fairly expensive smartphones at the time. They were, I would say that the iPhone takeover kind of started in like 2011 or so. They started to become very common. But a good number of the people that I knew in high school that I talked on the telephone with, they had cell phones, although they were more expensive phones. Those telephones were still on a minute-based plan. And so if I was going to have a lengthy conversation with those people, which we did on occasion, we would use our landlines. In the 2010s, it was still not obsolete yet. These telephones, these sold like crazy. I think the Panasonic 93 series came a little bit before that, these units. These are also very popular, but I feel like these Uniden phones were some of the last like really good phones that we saw. VTech, I think, still makes a decent product. It's not as good as these, but it's still respectable. Panasonic, I don't know what the heck happened to Panasonic. Much of what I've used from Panasonic over the last 10 years has been complete garbage. And that's pretty much it. Uniden, unfortunately, has left the landline market here in the US. They made a couple models after these, but none of them caught on. These telephones, they just sold like crazy. I remember seeing these things everywhere. I could think of multiple stores that had them, multiple restaurants that had them. I remember seeing these things in, when I would go to a lot of tag sales or look at housing listings. That was something I did a lot in the 2010s. Between those two activities, I would see these telephones in some of the cheapest, chunkiest houses in the worst areas, and then you'd see them in, multi-million-dollar houses in some of the nicest areas. This system was in probably a more than $1 million house, big house, huge outdoor in-ground pool, multi-car detached garage with a loft over and big property, $1 million plus property, using these telephones. And they fit into so many different use cases because they were just plain fantastic. They were inexpensive. They were very affordable for almost every consumer, consumer category, I guess we could say. And they just plain worked. It had great performance, great range, excellent sound quality, durable, lasted a long time. This system does have both of the original batteries still. It just flat out phenomenal system. So it was kind of like the last model that was really, really popular in the landline era. That was just great. It was everywhere. And VTech had a couple hits after that, but we really didn't see another phone after this that sat in the market for years and years and just sold like crazy, and a lot of people liked it. I remember in the 2010s reading a lot of commentary on the internet about these, reading hundreds and hundreds of reviews, and people would rave about these phones. They were great. It was also kind of important in Uniden's history because it was, again, one of the last big hits they had here in the US, but I think it was also a redemption period for their economy models. Uniden sold a good number of economy models in the 2000s, 2.4 gigahertz, 5.8 gigahertz, 900 megahertz. And those 5.8 gigahertz models that they sold, some of which were on the market even alongside this, they lasted until 2008. I don't know why, but some of those economy models that Uniden produced were horrible in terms of range. And so after years of selling these horrible economy models, which I think are largely responsible for giving Uniden a poor reputation through those years, Uniden comes out with this economy model, and it's fantastic. It blows all the other ones out of the water in terms of performance. It's the same quality, the same longevity, and it's just fantastic. So it's significant for Uniden. It's significant because after these fell off the market, the landline started to fall out of favor. These had their popularity hit in the early 2010s, late 2000s, and it was kind of in the mid 2010s, late 2010s, that the landline really started to fall out of favor. It was that recently. It was within the last decade. As far as nostalgia goes, I have a ton of nostalgia to these phones. Back in 2009, when we moved into the old location, I convinced my grandmother that we needed a new phone system because we only had the DECT1588-5 at the time with 2 handsets. This was a pretty good sized house, multiple levels. The 2 phones just wasn't good enough. The batteries were whatever, the buttons were hard to press. And so my grandmother had found a set. It wasn't this exact set, it was the 1580, 80 indicating the basic base with answering machine, no speakerphone. She found a set of those at, I think it was at BJ's for whatever, inexpensive. I think it was less than $100. 6 handsets, biggest system they sold. And she got that for, it was obviously for the whole house, but it was mostly for me because I was the primary user of the landline telephone at the time. That was kind of when the landline fell out of favor in my household. It was around 2009, 2010. And I don't know if that happened because we moved and the number changed. I suspect that's what it was. We had, I'm trying to think, we got the stupid iPhones around that time as well. So it's possible that that might have happened anyways, but I feel like the only reason that my household moved, or I should say my parents only, moved to the landline or moved to the cell phone exclusively was probably because the number changed. I don't know why we didn't take the landline number with us when we moved, but we didn't. But anyway, so in 2009, my grandmother got me this set of phones, the 1580-6, and it came in a blister package. And I've never seen that blister package since. I guess we threw it out. I don't know why. That makes me so mad. I wish we kept it because I've never seen one since. Probably went on stupid eBay for like $500 or some dumb trash like that. But anyways, so we had these phones, and at the time I didn't have a lot of phones yet. I only had the XCA650. That was my primary phone. I had a couple corded phones, and I had the EXP371. Had an old Duo phone from Radio Shack, and that was it for cordless. So to get a system like this was really a dream come true for me, because it was the same answering machine voice and so forth as the 650 I had, but in this package that had a lot more functionality and had better coverage in the yard and so forth. That was important to me, having a good range in the yard. So I got these phones, and they just became the centerpiece of my functionality in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And within a couple of years of getting these phones, that's when my phone collection just started to become a thing, and it just took off real quick. But I used these phones so much during the 2010s, and not only were they in my household, but they would become everywhere, because my grandparents got a set of these in 2011, 2010. So very shortly after I got mine, my grandparents got theirs within a year or two, and those were used exclusively over there for a couple years. My grandparents started to use the cell phone almost exclusively in the late 2010s. And then my aunt and uncle got a set of these in 2012, maybe right towards the end of when these were still popular. He had gotten a set with a waterproof phone for the garage, and both my aunt and uncle liked those phones, and they used those phones for a couple of years. And then kind of also by the late 2010s, they started to use the cell phones exclusively. So there was this time period in the early 2010s where I had these phones, my aunt and uncle had these phones, my grandparents had these phones, so I saw them everywhere in the family. A couple of friends had these telephones. I can think of several friends that had these telephones. And, again, the businesses that had them, a couple of restaurants that had them. These things were just everywhere. And they were great phones. They made great calls, and I have so much nostalgia to these phones. So anyways, that's the story behind these. So this one, we have a blue one, we have a black one. Let's take a look at these batteries. These are the DECT1588-5 nickel cadmium rechargeable battery, 2.4 volt, 650 milliamps, 2008G, manufactured by BYD. Uniden sourced batteries from a handful of manufacturers over the years. BYD was not the best one. I think the GPI was the best one, but you can't argue with a battery that's well over 10 years old and still holds a charge. So these were early on, and you can tell these are early because the buttons were larger and there's still some color. Grab an example of a later one here. So this one is a later model from the early 2010s. This is from the late 2000s. This one has the larger buttons with the coloring on the three talking in button, or the blue speakerphone, I guess is the difference. The talking and they're still colored. So you can see the newer one on the right here has the smaller buttons and the white speakerphone button. And these were these were not exactly the same. I feel like these were a touch better quality, but these were still very good. These still were pretty much indestructible. This was the version that my grandparents and my aunt and uncle had, and there was never issues with these things. They worked perfectly for as long as they were in service, which was quite some time. I still have the original set of my 1580-6 system, and that telephone, through all the different models I've had in service, that telephone has almost always been in service over the years, because it's just a nice, basic, reliable go-to phone if you need to make an important call or just want the thing to just plain work. And of course, the Christmas ringtone has become an icon. I've used that ever since we had the phones. It's not Christmas without that Uniden ringer in my household. So I think that the G is the month of manufacture. So let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's the 7 months. So that would be July of 2008. So these are definitely pretty early on. This particular system was not used very much. There's very little wear on these handsets. They're in excellent condition still. A little dirty, but we can clean that up. All the buttons work perfectly. The display is starting to run on this one. I've seen that on a handful of occasions. It seems to happen a lot with these colored handsets. I don't know why. Some of the other ones that I have that are not the colored ones have run, but it seems to mostly affect the colored ones, which I don't understand, because I am pretty sure it's internally identical. But it doesn't seem to affect the visibility of the display too much. And it's still pretty readable. It's a lot better than what happens to the AT&T VTech stuff. This one also doesn't really have any wear on it. Very lightly used. I don't know how much wear the other three would have had. Perhaps those were used the most. I don't know. The base has a little bit of wear on it, but nothing major. It does have like a film on there, which we got to clean off, but I think it should clean up pretty well. Also, the cord is in excellent condition as well. One of the things I particularly liked about these, and I remember my grandmother liked this as well, the buttons are clear and the writing is underneath the button. So a lot of phones over time, the buttons will wear down. Like Panasonic phones are kind of notorious for this because it's just ink on top of a rubber button. The writing is underneath the buttons. These I have never seen wear out. But the writing never comes off the buttons. These are really built to last. They're built to take some serious hours. I used a system of 1580s at work for years, and I mean those phones would take 50 to 75 calls a day. I think I changed the batteries twice in those years, and the system just plain works. It still works perfectly fine to this day. And these phones are just flat out indestructible. They're excellent, excellent telephones. So let's see when the last calls were on this telephone. Today is 10/4. The last call was on 3/21, so these have not been used for at least several months. Let's see about these handsets, if they were connected simultaneously. No. Okay, so one of them, the last call was on 11/4, and then the other one, the last call was on 4/15. So it seems like these might have been decommissioned at different times, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure. Yeah, I have no idea when this was decommissioned then, because they're all, they all have different last calls. So it has voicemail indicator that there's a voicemail on the telephone line. So we got to figure out voicemail waiting indicator reset. Reset, okay. This does not have the touch tone turned on. Now it does. So much of these phones can be set up as far as the answering machine goes through the handsets, which is really handy, both listening to the messages and configuration of the settings. Trying to get this so there's as little glare as possible. The display is already kind of hard to read because of the dirt that's on there. We'll put a, actually, no, I'm not going to use equipment to do this. I'll put a, actually, you know what would be perfect for this? I'll put a Allen key set under here. There, that's good. And now nobody can yell at me for not being able to see the screen because the screen's in clear view. Alright, let's start with the base setup. There's only two options. They're set the way I want. Answer setup. Greeting options.
You reached the Michael, honey. Leave a message after the beep. Thanks for calling.
Don't tell me what to do.
Record. Greeting.
Hello, this is Frank's Electrical Store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Hello, this is Frank's Electrical Store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
I'm going to record that from the handset and see if it's any clearer. Gotta remember to keep the microphone in range here. So we can go on the handset here.
No messages. Hello. Record. Greet.
Hello, this is Frank's Electrical Store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Frank's Electrical Store.
I think it might be a little bit clearer.
Hello, this is Frank's Electrical Store. Record a message or we're not calling you back. Hello, this is Frank's Electrical Store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Like most of these Digitan answering machines, it's not a great quality recording. You can tell it's a very highly compressed digital audio. This is, I would say, average to a touch above average in terms of clarity. The Uniden True series seem to have the best Digitan answering machines. Those were practically tape quality. This one is far from tape quality, but it's not bad either. It's respectable. That was never changed from the default. Only 2 rings. It's not very much. Okay. Okay, I think we got all the settings on there. The ringer. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's put an entry into the telephone book as well. Well, there's one entry in here. It's Dave. Let me get Dave out of here so we don't get him spammed. Okay. Make sure that that's gone from the handsets as well. This one has a couple entries. Okay. Huh, that didn't give me the option for personal ring. I guess the base doesn't do that because it doesn't have any ringers. Makes sense enough, I guess. So we only have number 1 and number 5 with us. Put that into Marcy's telephone. Let's clear out those registrations from the old MIA handsets. Take out number 2. We're holding pound and the end key to do this. Okay, so now we should have, if we go to intercom, we just have base in this handset. Likewise on here, base and handset number 1. Okay, so now we're going to go to the menu and register handset, and then we push and hold the pound key on here. Okay, and now it's 1 and 2. Huh, that's been moved from the default. Usually the default's on. Bob. Okay, so now we've got everything set up. Let's go ahead and call these telephones. There's still a little bit of junk over here, but it's a lot cleaner than it usually is. So we can actually reach the equipment today. Well, we might have some problems here. Now, I do have 1,000,000 telephones connected in this house, and so sometimes that results in this kind of behavior. But if it's right next to the system, I would expect it to work. I wonder if this was decommissioned because of this reasoning, this problem here. Let's try to cancel the registration and put it back. What is that? It certainly seems like it establishes a connection just fine. Nope. Not registered, it found the signal of the base just fine as well. And that is definitely not working properly. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Huh, that's a shame. This is definitely has some kind of a problem, and I'm not sure what that problem is. Well, I guess for now, because this is not working properly, we're just going to go ahead and deregister this, and we'll put it in the pile of things to troubleshoot at a later date. I have not seen many of these fail, but they are getting very old now, and unfortunately we might start seeing some of these fail. Perhaps the rest of them have failed, and that's why they are MIA. I'm not sure. I may never know. Alright, well, we'll just do the video with one handset. That's disappointing, especially because it's a colored handset, but at the same time we can also just take that colored shell and put it, on a board that's from a regular silver handset. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. Alright, that seems to be working properly now. So let's go ahead and turn the answering machine on so we can record this call.
Answering system is on. Hello, this is Frank's electrical store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Okay.
Hello, this is Frank's electrical store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
I found this with many telephones, and I think this is the case with this system as well. The clarity of the greeting when played through the line is substantially better than when played through the telephone itself. And so I think that the failure point of the audio quality is not actually the recording itself, but rather the amplification circuitry in the bass. And that kind of makes sense in this case because I've noticed too when playing the messages back on the handset remotely, they're also much better quality.
Hello, this is Frank's electrical store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Hello, it stopped recording. Oh, I gotta do it again.
Hello, this is Frank's electrical store. Record a message or we're not calling you back.
Hello, Frank. This is Bill. I'm calling to order a new electrical panel because a skunk sprayed my electrical panel last night and all the stupid, unreliable, lousy circuit breakers shorted out from the skunk juice. So I'd like to have it replaced, and I'd like to replace it with one that takes fuses because I think that fuses are superior to circuit breakers and probably more resilient to skunk juice. Oh gosh, it stinks in here. Call me to my home phone. That's illuminating green.
One new message. Hello, Frank. This is Bill. I'm calling to order a new electrical panel because a skunk sprayed my electrical panel last night and all the stupid, unreliable, lousy circuit breakers shorted out from the skunk juice. So I'd like to have it replaced, and I'd like to replace it with one that takes fuses because I think that fuses are superior to circuit breakers and probably more resilient to skunk juice. Oh, gosh, it stinks in here. Call me to my home phone. Tuesday, 9:05 p.m. End of messages.
Okay, so now we'll go ahead and play it back with the handset and see if there is a difference in the audio quality. I think we'll find it sure is.
Tuesday, 9:07 p.m. One old message. Hello, Frank. This is Bill. I'm calling to order a new electrical panel because a skunk sprayed my electrical panel last night and all the stupid, unreliable... Hello, Frank. This is Bill. I'm calling to order a new electrical panel because a skunk sprayed my electrical panel last night and all the stupid, unreliable, lousy circuit breakers
shorted out from the skunk juice. So I'd like to have it replaced, and I'd like to replace it with one that takes fuses, because I think that fuses are superior to circuit breakers and probably more resilient to skunk juice. Oh, gosh, it stinks in here. Call me to my home phone.
Tuesday, 9:05 p.m. End of messages.
I think it's remarkable that Uniden used the same voice for so many years. That voice was on the telephones in the 90s, and it was used until they stopped selling phones here in the US in the 2010s. And it's a good voice too. There was no reason to go away from it, and I'm glad that they didn't. Okay, so the answering machine seems to be working pretty good, and I do think there's definitely an improvement in the audio quality when playing back through the handset, particularly the talk mode as opposed to speakerphone. Okay, let's go to the mains and let's make some outside calls here. We'll call the Farmer Jones ambient temperature line.
Greetings from Jones Family Farms and Winery this beautiful Saturday. We have a brief word regarding our harvest Joe and crops, and then some notes regarding our winery's fine offerings. Our farm team is hard at work in our crop field, harvesting both pumpkins and grapes, and we welcome you to our Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm. That's one of our 4 farm locations to visit our pumpkin patch. Take note of the address, 120 Beardsley Road in Shelton for the pumpkins. Visit our website to learn about the pumpkin season and the online reservation platform. For weekend visits, you'll save 20% with an online reservation done in advance. The Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm is open daily from 10 a.m. to...
Very good volume range on there, and it only distorts at the highest setting. Even one notch below, it's still perfectly clear. This handset seems to be very loud.
There's helpful information on the website, including recipes, fun farm offerings are explained. We have the quarantine, DUIs, and overall how to plan your visit in advance for the weekend at that 120 Beardsley Road location for the Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm. Now, our websites are the best resource to learn about all our offerings. Again, jonesfamilyfarms.com for the harvest crops of pumpkins galore at Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm, and Jones Winery, winery, which is over at our Homestead Farm. So speaking of the farm winery...
Okay, that sounds good. Let's switch to the handset. Or the cordless handset, rather. They're both handsets.
For the winery. Lovely setting of the winery and tasting room at our Homestead Farm. That's at 606 Walnut Tree Hill Road. And you can enjoy the historic indoor setting of the dairy barn or sit outside in our patio and pavilion. If you do need to reach us, email is best. farmer@jonesfamilyfarms.com. While you can also leave a clear message at 203-929-6237. Please allow us time to respond to phone calls, which is why we encourage instead using the email via farmer@jonesfamilyfarms.com. If your call is regarding a pumpkin reservation, there's a link in your confirmation email where you can self-change your reservation if done within 2 hours of your arrival. If you do need...
A pretty good volume range on the handset speakerphone as well. And the handset earpiece on these things is absolutely fantastic. This is one of the best sounding cordless telephones I've ever used. The audio quality is exceptional. Very, very good frequency response range. Very lifelike, vivid, and rich sound. These telephones, in my opinion, sound much better than some Panasonic systems that cost hundreds more. All right, now let's take this thing outside and see how good the range is. Now, keep in mind, the performance will be a little bit less during this test than what can potentially be achieved because the number of telephones I have hooked up over here is really so far beyond what's reasonable there's just so much hashing in the air.
Greetings from Jones Family Farms and Winery this beautiful Saturday. We have a brief word regarding our Harvest Joe and crops, and then some notes regarding our winery's fine offerings. Our farm team is hard at work in our crop fields. They're harvesting both pumpkins and grapes, and we welcome you to our Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm. That's one of our 4 farm locations. This is our pumpkin patch. Take note of the address, 120 Beardsley Road in Shelton for the pumpkins. Visit our website to learn about the pumpkin season and the online reservation platform. For weekend visits, you'll save 20% with an online reservation done in advance. The Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm is open daily from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We recommend arriving 1 hour before closing to visit the full farm experience. Our grab-and-go tent is open until 5:30 for quick, convenient selection of pumpkin squash.
Okay, we got perfect reception here in the backyard. And the base is right inside that room there on the bottom. So it's about 75 feet through one solid block wall.
Are the best resource to learn about all our offerings. Again, JonesFamilyFarms.com for the harvest crops of pumpkins galore at a Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm. And JonesWineryCT.com for the winery, which is over at our Homestead Farm. So speaking of the farm winery, it's currently open Thursday and Friday from 12 to 6.
A little bit of clipping there.
Sunday from 11 till 6.
Pretty reasonable.
JonesWineryCT.com website has all of the details. You do not need a reservation for the winery. You're welcome to experience the lovely setting of the winery and tasting room at our Homestead Farm. That's at 606 Walnut Tree Hill Road. And you can enjoy the historic indoor setting of the dairy barn or sit outside in our patio and pavilion. If you do need to reach us, email is best via farmer@jonesfamilyfarms.com. While you can also leave a clear message at 203-929-6237. Please allow us a bit of time to respond to phone calls, which is why we encourage instead using the email via farmer@jonesfamilyfarms.com. If your call is regarding a pumpkin reservation, there's a link in your confirmation email where you can self-change your reservation if done within 2 hours of your arrival.
Okay, so that covers the entire yard across the entire house, all the way to the edge of the property. There's a lot of phones that won't do that. It did clip out a little bit towards the end, but I would say the range on these is a touch above average. Now, I do also think that the range on this particular model, the 1588, might be a touch better because you have that nice antenna on the base. Oh, let's keep going and see how far it goes.
Until 6. We thank you for calling.
Let's call again. We'll call the weather this time.
Hello, and thank you for calling your National Weather Service office located on the campus of Brookhaven National Laboratory in Upton, New York.
That sounds like some copyright
For the
music.
New York City metropolitan area forecast,
Sound like awful
including
music
over
too.
8
Awful modern music.
For the lower Hudson Valley forecast, here is the official National Weather Service forecast for the New York City metropolitan area. This afternoon, sunny. Near steady temperature in the lower 80s. West winds around 5 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear. Lows in the mid-60s. Southwest winds around 5 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's clipping out pretty bad now.
Sunny. Highs in the mid-80s. 5 miles per hour. Becoming south in the afternoon.
That's 2 houses
Sunday
down.
night, clear.
That's pretty solid,
Lows in
especially
the
for
lower
the
60s.
base being in the lower level of the house.
Monday, sunny. Highs around 80. Southwest wind 5 to
Yeah, that's quite respectable. I would put that in the slightly above average category for range of a DECT 6. There are DECT 6 units that will perform better than this. Some of the Panasonic 6 Plus units get more range than this. And I think that the second generation Uniden DECT 6 get a little more range. But there's a lot of other models that get a lot less range than this. So again, being the economy model, very respectable range, and I think a little bit above average. Not much, but a little bit. All right, so we'll go back into the studio now, and then we'll record some testing messages with this handset. Test the speakerphone out, and the speakerphone, I think, is one of the areas where this these handsets, these cordless handsets, really shine. Definitely above average performance on the speakerphone. I should do a side-by-side test with the 1588 and say the 1580 or the 1560, because that did work a little better than I kind of remember these doing. I'm very familiar with these phones because I've used them for so long, and that range was a little better than usual. Now, I really haven't used a 1588 much. I almost always use the 1580 because that's the one I have the most nostalgia to, but maybe the 1588 does have a decent edge on the range compared to the other models. We'll revisit that in the future. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the testing engine machine here, and I will record some testing messages. I'll record some funny messages, and I'll let you see what it looks like to talk on these phones, because that unfortunately is becoming an uncommon sight. And then I'll record a more lengthy message to describe the debacle that existed, that should not have existed, around going to the tag sale to get these telephones. And I'll bring a microphone over here. Hello? Hey Frank, it's Bill. Ah! Yeah, it is almost midnight. Probably shouldn't be shouting, because the neighbors are going to wonder what's going on here. Oh, nothing out of the ordinary, just a typical telephone video. You can't make this stuff up. Did you hear that idiot shouting in his house again? It sounds like a stinking farm.
8 new messages and 10 old messages. The memory is full. Please erase your messages.
Don't tell me what to do.
Message 1.
Hey Frank, it's Bill.
Message 1.
Hey Frank, it's Bill.
Message 2.
Did you hear that idiot shouting in his house again? It sounds like a stinking farm.
Message 3.
Hey Frank, it's Bill. I was wondering if you could call me to my home phone because we had a little incident here last night that I'm going to need your help cleaning up. Okay, call me to my home phone. Bye.
It has some vibrations in it today.
Hello Frank, it's Bill. Still awaiting your call. It's been about 2 minutes since I last called, but I still haven't heard from you, so hope all is well, and call me to my home phone. Goodbye.
Message 5.
Hello, Frank. It's Bill again.
I still haven't heard from you, so I'm just calling to make sure that you're still alive. All right, call me to my home phone, 555-1234. So goodbye.
Message 6.
The hello. In this message, we're going to test the speakerphone pickup on the handset. So this is the handset and talk. Now I just switched the handset to speakerphone, and I'm speaking at about the same volume and distance as I was before to give an idea of the difference in the volume on the pickup of the talk mode and the speakerphone mode. Okay, I've set the telephone down on the table now. I'm speaking at about 1.5 feet from the telephone. This is about 2 feet from the telephone, 3 feet from the telephone, and this is about 4 feet from the telephone. And this is the distance where I feel like the telephone should really still be picking up pretty well. Much beyond this, you can only expect so much from a portable battery-operated unit. I find that these have an excellent speakerphone, and I think we're going to find it picks up pretty clearly quite a bit past this distance, which I really need to measure out in metric. I still haven't gotten around to doing that yet. This is about 5 feet from the telephone, 6 feet from the telephone, 7 feet from the telephone, 8 feet from the telephone, 9 feet from the telephone, 10 feet from the telephone, 11 feet from the telephone, 12 feet from the telephone, 13 feet from the telephone, 14 feet from the telephone. This is about 15 feet from the telephone, almost all the way across the entire house. Not lengthwise, widthwise, but it's still recording, so it's got to be picking up to a degree. It's about 16 feet from the telephone. And this is, I would say, approximately 17 to 18 feet from the telephone. And this is about as far away as I can go before I get a wall in between myself and the telephone. So, case in point, the pickup on the speakerphone is really quite good.
Message 7.
Now I'm calling from the base. I'm speaking directly into the handset, and these handsets do tend to get some wind noise, but not an extraordinary amount. Not as bad as some of those AT&T handsets. Those they sound like you're in a hurricane. So I'm going to switch to the base speakerphone now. Okay, I've switched to the base speakerphone, and I'm speaking just a few inches away from the base speakerphone's microphone. Hopefully it's capturing my voice as I operate in the person. I put the telephone back on table, and I'm speaking at about 1 foot away from the telephone, and the telephone is sitting on a piece of carpet, so I guess I can move the telephone onto a hard surface now because some people don't like that I test it on a piece of carpet, and that is a valid concern. Okay, so now it's on a hard table. I'm speaking at about a foot away from the telephone, so there's your comparison. I'm going to start moving away from the telephone now. This is about the 4 foot mark away from the telephone. I don't know how good the speakerphone is on these bases. I really haven't used them all that much. I don't know if it's as good or better than the handset. It really should be better than the handset because you don't have limitations of size, weight, and power like you do inside the portable handset. Oh, 8 feet away from the...
Message 8.
So I went to go to this tag sale today where these telephones resided, and there was a bit of a debacle about it because I was with Kevin. We had gone to the store, and he was driving in some stupid way. He went like 15 miles in the opposite direction to go to a freeway, to go back to the same direction, to go to a store that's like 2 miles from the house. I don't know what the heck he was doing. But anyways, that's what he did. So on the way back from the store, when he wasted like a half an hour driving all over the place for no reason, we drive by a tag sale. It's not out of the way. It's like literally on the way home as we drive right by it. And I said, we should stop at tag sale. And he says, no, we have enough stuff. We don't need to go to tag sale. I said, what are you saying? Because when you see a tag sale, you go to tag sale because you never know what could be there. There could be a weather wheel new in the box. There could be a great set of cordless phones that's partially broken. There could be a brand new old stock set of cordless phones that's not broken. There could be a Glacier Breeze air conditioner. There could be a Fetters air conditioner. You never know what's at these tag sales, so you always stop at the tag sale. Usually, there's at least a couple items of interest. Usually, they're very inexpensive, and so it works out great. Worst case scenario, you waste 2 minutes and you walk away with nothing, which is not a big deal. So we finally go to tag sale, and there's these telephones, and there was interesting, some Christmas lights that we got, all for very cheap. The Christmas lights work perfectly, unlike the telephone set. But still, I'm very happy with this telephone set, even for $10. Both of the base and the one handset that works are in good cosmetic condition, good functional condition, and the blue handset, even though it's not working properly, is in good cosmetic condition, so it makes a good display piece, and I don't see why we can't take that shell and swap the board out with a board that works from a basic silver handset, which is much more common. So anyways, case in point, when you see a tag sale, just go to it, and don't give your passengers a hard time about it, because there might be something good there.
End of messages.
Okay, so the base speakerphone is terrible. That's disappointing, especially because the handset speakerphone is really quite exceptional. And the base speakerphone's incoming audio is also quite decent. But other than that, it's an absolutely fantastic telephone set. It's a shame that the blue handset is not working properly, but the shell is in very good cosmetic condition. There's only a couple marks here and there, so I don't see any reason why we can't just swap out the board in this from one of the more common silver handsets and have another good working blue handset. And we got a good silver handset out of the deal. We got a good working base out of the deal. It just needs a light cleaning. Mounting brackets there. That's getting a little bit hard to find sometimes. And I think that I am going to use a 1588, perhaps this exact one, during Christmas time this year. We'll mount it on the wall in the kitchen, the kitchen, so that we can free up the space near where the telephone jack is under the counter for some Christmas decorations instead.